The man is kissing the maid when he hears his wife's voice calling him. The man pretends to be drinking a cup of coffee. The maid pretends she hasn't made the coffee yet. The wife greets the maid and asks if the husband is ready. The husband says yes. The wife then tells the maid that she doesn't need to set the table for coffee or prepare lunch because they will be out all day. She says the maid can take the day off. The maid thanks her employer. Then the woman says goodbye to the maid and leaves with her husband. And the maid is upset. Hours later, the husband and wife arrive home. The husband is surprised by the maid. The wife asks why the maid hasn't taken the day off. The husband says he is going to take a shower and the wife goes to talk to the maid. The maid says that she prefers to stay home anyway because she has a lot of laundry to do. The wife says that the maid works a lot and that she has to enjoy the day off. The wife, looking to see if her husband was around, says she needs to talk to the maid. She says their wedding anniversary is coming up. She shows a picture on her cell phone and asks if the maid thinks her husband will like that gift. The maid says she's sure he will like it. The woman asks if the maid didn't hear the husband comment that he is going to buy her some gift. The maid says she didn't hear anything and that he didn't comment anything with her, since they don't even talk much. The wife says that the maid is right and that maybe her husband wants to surprise her. Then, changing the subject, the wife says that she wants to take advantage of the fact that there are only the two of them to thank the maid for the work she does. She says that she admires the maid very much and that she is very loyal to her family. The wife says she worries about the maid, as she has come from out of state and is far away from her family. She says she wants the maid to feel at home and part of the family. She says that even when they have a child, the maid will be the child's second mother. The maid wonders why her at all. The wife says it is because she is part of the family. The maid says she doesn't deserve that. The wife says she does, for all she does for them, for taking care of them and being a help. Then she says she just has to thank them for everything the maid does and represents to them. The wife says that her company is doing very well and that she has already thought about raising the maid's salary. She says she wants the maid to earn well so she can go out and buy whatever she wants. The maid, pretending to care, takes the mistress's hand and tells her that she is very grateful. The mistress says that the maid deserves it. Then the wife says that her husband is tired and is probably going to lie down and go to sleep. She says she is already dressed and is looking forward to going out again. She asks if the maid is in. The maid looks thoughtful and says that her boss is very kind. The mistress encourages the woman by telling her that she deserves to go to the beauty salon, get dressed up and buy new clothes, so the maid agrees. The wife says she will quickly go to the bathroom while the maid gets ready. Then the maid takes off her apron and says that she is starting to feel guilty about being with her mistress's husband. She says that the mistress is very sweet and innocent. The next day, the maid is getting ready for another day's work when the boss comes in and kisses her. She pushes him away. The man asks her why she rejects him. The maid says that they have to end their relationship and that she doesn't want to be with him anymore. The man asks her why she had that idea so suddenly. The maid says that her mistress is very kind and does not deserve to be cheated on. The man tells the maid not to come with that talk after all they have done. The maid says they made a mistake and that's it. She tells them to leave it in the past and act right from now on. The man says he will fire the maid. The maid says she is going to tell her mistress everything. The man tells the maid to go and tell her then. The man then takes his wife's watch out of his pocket and puts it on the maid's apron. Next, the wife is distracted on the couch when the maid arrives to talk to her. The wife greets the maid. The maid says she didn't want to be in the way, but she needs to talk something serious. The wife says that she is fine and that the maid can say anything. The maid starts by saying that her boss has always been a very good and kind person to her. She says that the mistress has always trusted her and opened doors for her to come into her house. She says that she cannot be dishonest with her mistress and that is why she has to tell the truth once and for all, because she will not be able to live keeping the secret. Then the maid tells her that she had an affair with her mistress's husband. The wife gets no reaction, and the maid goes on to say that things have happened and that she couldn't help it. She says that the boss flirted with her directly and she fell into the man's trap. She kept believing and getting carried away. The woman wonders how they could have done this to her right under her nose and inside her own home. The woman says she helped the maid so much that she came from out of state, gave her housing, food, and a good salary. She says the two went shopping together several times and that the maid was two-faced with her the whole time. The maid says she recognizes that what she did was very wrong. She says she needed to say it right away. Then the husband arrives and asks the wife what the maid was talking about. The wife clutches her husband's arms and asks him why he did that to her. She says that she has always been faithful to her husband and that she didn't deserve that. The husband says he didn't do anything. The wife slaps her husband, telling him he is a liar. The man puts his finger in the maid's face and tells her that she is destroying years of marriage, but she tells him to put his finger down. The husband asks if the wife will believe him or that thief. The wife is confused. The maid says she has never stolen anything. The man asks where the maid's apron is. He says he saw the maid put a watch of his wife's inside the apron. The wife returns with her apron and finds the watch inside her pocket. The maid is surprised. The wife looks at the maid while the husband tells her to explain herself. The wife asks why the maid did that. He says he trusted the maid a lot and doesn't understand why she did it. The wife says she can't believe what is happening. The maid defends herself by saying she didn't steal anything and doesn't know how the watch got on her apron. She looks at the man and asks if it was him. The man plays innocent and says he hasn't done anything. The wife tells the maid to leave his house, and the maid tells the wife to believe him. But the wife throws the maid out, pulling her by the arm. When the women leave, the husband smiles. Outside, the wife tells the maid to leave. She locks the maid outside and the maid is left crying. Weeks later, the woman opens the door and greets her neighbor. The neighbor says she went there to ask for some sugar. The wife says she will be happy to help her neighbor. She asks if the neighbor is busy and calls her to come in and sit down to talk a little. The two sit down on the couch and the wife asks how her neighbor is doing. The neighbor replies that she is doing very well and that her life is very quiet. The neighbor asks her what's new. She comments that she has not seen her maid again and asks what happened. The wife says it's a long story. She says the maid was doing some things wrong under her nose. She says she trusted the maid, gave her housing, employment, and treated her like she was family. But she says that one day the maid called her to talk, saying she had something serious to tell her, and that she even thought the maid was going to ask her for some financial help. But she says the maid told her she was having an affair with her husband. She says that ultimately the maid made it all up because her husband saw the maid steal a watch. She says that throwing the maid out was the only way. The neighbor, fearful, tells the woman that she saw her husband kissing the maid. She says she was leaving the house when she saw the two kissing on the stairs. The woman asks if the neighbor is sure and she confirms that she is. The neighbor says she didn't know how to tell, but since the wife told she thought it was appropriate. The woman says this is very strange and asks again if it is serious. The neighbor reconfirms that it is and that she saw it with her own eyes. The wife says she believes it. She says she goes to get sugar and asks the neighbor to wait a bit. Hours later, the wife throws her husband out of the house. She tells him to take the bag and get out of her life. The man apologizes, but the wife says she wants no more to do with him and says he is no good. So she goes into the house and closes the door. The husband has nowhere to live and leaves with his suitcase.